Hi, it's Jared from Strong Roots Farm. Today I'm going to talk about bed prep, what we're doing to get our season started and some of those things, show you inside the greenhouse now that I've got it laid out, show you what we're going to till and talk a little bit about tillage versus no-till and what you should do if you're starting a garden, fabrics, some of those things. That's all coming up today right after this.
I'm Jarrod McGinnis, and this is a story of my family and our farm. About a year ago, we purchased a small rundown farm and began working to transform it into a local, sustainable food source for our community. Please subscribe and come with us on this journey of faith, family, and healthy food. We are Strong Roots Farm.
First off, my rows were built last year in this part of the garden. We'll go into the greenhouse in a minute and I'll show you the new ones that I made. They're the exact same. The only difference is this caterpillar tunnel, which I have a video on it just a week ago or so, it's made to hold 4 of these rows, okay? I've only made 3 in there, mainly because we have some U-pick customers this year that as we're getting into that, and I want them to have more walkway, more room. If you're in a high production level system, then that'll be okay for you in there. But I want to build a little more room, so I only put 3 in. So my rows, if you haven't seen any of my videos, they're 30-inch wide with a 15-inch walkway. The reason for my rows mainly is due to the fabrics. Okay, so I chose a 30-inch row, which is the same thing as J.M. Fortier and Curtis Stone and Elliott Coleman. That's kind of where it came from, this 30-inch row. But the tools are in 30 inches, so it's imperative that you use something that fits with your tools. This is the reason I have a 15-inch walkway. So Curtis is down to, I think, a 10-inch walkway. I'm not tight, I'm not in an urban setting, so I go with a 15-inch walkway. The reason I do it is because I have a nice 15-inch rake. So I just bring the rake through and that sets my walkway straight. So I've chosen those measurements for my walkway. This is a 50-foot row. So if you're gonna do 1 acre of production, it takes 232 of these rows to equal 1 acre of production. We're gonna have about 1/10 of an acre here, and that's kind of the goal. Is we're trying to get around $6,000 worth of production out of 1/10 of an acre in our second year. So that's kind of our goal. We're still small, we're still growing, we're focusing on cattle still, but that's kind of our goal out of 1/10 of an acre. So as we go through, I tilled some of these patches. So till versus no till, let's go into that. First, if you are building new rows, I think it's my opinion that you should till. Okay, it makes it easier. It makes it easier to lay your rows out. It makes it easier to put them in. There are people that say you can just stale seed bed and you don't have to build the elevated rows like I have. We have a tendency here in Ohio that we can be dry for 2 weeks and then in one night get 5 inches of rain, which these elevated beds really help with that. It also helps with aeration. It also helps with mainly keeping my kids out of the beds, and it makes a distinction between the bed and the walkway. So with U-pick it helps, with the kids it helps. So we like the elevated beds. It works for us here. That's why we chose to do this. So if you're building new beds, I say till. Now, I didn't have to do a whole lot of tilling this year due to the fact that my beds were already made. So the beds that I tilled were the beds that I either had cover cropped or the beds that I left a winter crop in there and I tilled those back in. So the beds over here behind me that are still covered with plastic, you'll see there's a couple beds here that had lettuces in them and I just let those go to seed, collected what I could, and then that became my cover crop. I will have to till those beds. The beds that are covered though, I can just simply rake them flat and hit them with a tilther really quick, which goes 3/4 to an inch to an inch deep. And I don't have to till those. Put my compost on top, put my chicken manure, whatever I'm gonna use, and I can go right into planting, okay? So I don't have to do a deep till. Broad forking, I like that. It's not a till, it just breaks the ground open. You're not actually turning over. So why should you not till? Tilling brings up weed seeds. So weed seeds, we've heard of weed seeds lasting longer than 10 years. So they can lay dormant in the soil for up to 10 years. And unfortunately, our tomatoes and our plants and our other things don't do that and just magically come back, but the weeds do. So if you till them up, you're bringing them up into that surface soil, those weeds will germinate and then cause you problems. If you're tilling your garden every year, that's a lot of the reason you have weeds, okay? So in that top inch layer, those weed seeds will germinate, you pull them, you hoe them, whatever you do to get them out. I prefer the stale seed bedding method. So once you get all the weed seeds out of that inch top basin of your soil there, if they're lower than that, they tend not to germinate. If they do, they're pretty easy to pull out. So there's a good reason to not till is to keep your weeds low. Tilling though, if I want to break down that carbon that I cover cropped with and get it down on the soil, I chose to till for that method. I'm going to try to show you a few examples here. So this bed right here, I'd used the tilther on, okay? I didn't deep till this. It had a little bit of stubble on it, but it was underneath fabric. This bed over here was underneath fabric, but it had a winter crop. So I have an option here. I can go through and stir up some of that old crop out and then tilther it and put my compost down and just be ready to roll. That's kind of the no-till permaculture setting, and that's a good setting. This over here though had cover crop on it. You can kind of see the stubble. It's hard to see on the video, but I tilled that in. I wanted that organic material to go down in the soil more. So I will hit this, I will rake it level again, hit it with compost, hit it with the tilther, and seed right into it. So that's the 3 different types of beds and the options you kind of have, at least on my farm, the things that I'm doing, till or no till. Here, this weekend I built these beds. This half of the greenhouse towards me used to be the compost pile. So part of this was compost pile, so it killed a lot of the weeds. The other end was not. So what I did was when I took this compost pile and I moved it, and I spread some throughout the whole greenhouse where the greenhouse was going to be built. I tilled the entire thing. On that half, I planted a cover crop. I just wanted to see the difference, so I had some rye and some different stuff down there, and the grasses naturally came back, had a decent looking cover crop down there. I came in after I built the greenhouse and tilled it real deep, forked it, did all that stuff, built my rows. So we'll go down here and look at this fabric, and I'll show you the kind of the row construction. It's a little easier to see on the fabric. 3 rows in here. We talked about that already. It's because of the U-pick and I need more walkways. You can kind of see here, my rows are about 4 inches higher on each side than the walkways are themselves. So in the center, I have all this planted out. So my trays are up there, they're seated. They're gonna go into this fabric right here. This is Sunbelt Fabric. I made a video on this. Curtis Stone has a really good video of how we burn holes. So check those things out. Sunbelt though is the only thing I recommend. If you're buying it at a hardware store, it's not gonna work for you like this stuff does. So I expect to get 5-year use out of this. I used this exact same roll 3 times last year. I got 3 crops out of this row. This will be the 4th crop in it. So up there, the trays are seated, they're ready to plant here. Right here, I've direct seeded. So where the compost pile was, and I also stale seed bedded this has got direct seeding in it. If you're gonna make new rows, this is huge. This is the advice I wish I would have got last year. If you're making new rows where there was grass or there was not a garden, do not plant a direct seed crop, my opinion, okay? So the reason is if you can get at least 1 or 2 crops with Sunbelt Fabric on a brand new garden, it'll take a lot of that. It'll stale seed bed while you're growing a crop. So plant your green beans there and put it in fabric and then come back with something direct seed. Especially in Ohio where you get those warmer summers, okay, we're a little lower towards the south, where we can get weeds. We only get 2 turns in the summer on our salad mixes, okay? So it's important that you use fabric your first year. It will save you a ton of work. If you're just a hobby gardenist, just use it all the time. Salad mixes are not that important. There's Salanova. There's other things that you can do that would be better. If you're going to grow a salad mix, grow it maybe in a raised bed. A 4x8 bed would feed your whole family salad mix for a year. So Sunbelt Fabric will extremely lessen your load when it comes to weeding. The other thing that it does here is that I kind of have a ditch. So I have this 4-inch lower lip on each side, which you can see there's some grass coming in on this side that will eventually be covered with fabric. But as the water comes off of the greenhouse, and it rains on me right now, it will go in there. It won't come up in my bed and wash stuff out. That was really important to me because of the way of the land laid. So I have a good sun. This is the north-south that I want to be, but the water kind of comes this way a little bit as well. So this is going to help keep it out. I've got tile underneath this greenhouse going opposite direction, and then there's a ditch to the behind me here. So most of the water off of the back side of this greenhouse will go down in that ditch and grow into a pond about 100 yards away. But this side, I wanted to keep the water out of here. So that was something I did and something I changed. But you can see I only have 3 rows of production where I could have 4 if I was a high production thing in this caterpillar tunnel. Now is the time to plan. We've made our rows. We kind of got what we're doing. I've kind of got a plan. I've got all the seed labeled out, dates out, kind of got a plan of how things are going to grow here. I have a really short row up here. So it's about 15 foot long. And I'm going to grow okra there, mainly because I don't grow a lot of okra. We're in Ohio. If you're down south, you would say, oh, we love okra. There's not many people in Ohio that are just like, please, do you have okra? There are some that like it though, and my hope is with the U-pick, I'll get some people to try it. So the first row is going to be okra. I've made it short because it'll be on the end where I'm going to drive my tractor around the greenhouse or caterpillar tunnel. The second row here is flowers. So I'm stale seed bedding this for flowers. I've got a few different flower mix, fresh cut flower mixes, and a beneficial pest flower mix that I'm going to be putting in there. This row right here, I had corn last year. So this was my corn experiment from last year. If you've watched one of my old videos, that means there has to be a legume this year. So the corn just takes a lot of nitrogen out of the soil, really hurt the soil. I had to till this because when you pull the corn out, it really made some ruts. So I tilled this in, got some of my corn stalks down on the ground. So these two rows here and here are going to be green beans. Right off the bat, I know I'm going to put the legume there, so these first two rows are going to be green beans. I'm going to set the next few rows, and I'm going to stale seed bed those because right now I have onions, bunching onions and carrots and salad mix all direct seeded in that greenhouse. So my next place to plant carrots is going to be out here. So I've got about 3 or 4 weeks before I need to plant my second round of carrots, and they'll go here. That'll give me enough time to stale seed bed. I'll have the compost down, everything will be done. It'll be stale seed bedded. I'll pull the plastic off, hit it with the tilther real quick, and go the carrots. Here we have the winter cow paddock. Okay, so it's really a mess right now. We've been getting a lot of rain this spring. We didn't have a huge amount of frost this winter or freezing ground, so it got tore up a little faster than I liked. This was really thick pasture when they came into it. We're feeding round bales. I have 2 round bales left, that one and one more, and then every day I'm adding in a square bale, which is a little higher protein, so some hairy vetch and some clovers and those things in with the round bale that they have. So what's going to happen here? Well, they've dropped all this nitrogen. We've also done the composting in the barn, so it's real deep. We'll compost all that manure, but there obviously is some manure out here where they were eating. That's where the corn's going to go. So we're going to do corn and hairy vetch. I might start early with some forage radishes, and then as they start to get into the corn, I'll cut the tops off and kill those and come in with my hairy vetch. But over here, we're going to do our potatoes. So we're going to try some no-till, is what they call them, potatoes. They're really not no-till, but you plant them in a row and cover them with straw. Your potatoes grow. So we're going to do our potatoes, our squash, our summer squash, our butternut squash, all that stuff is all going to be over here where the cows were. Then I'll harvest that stuff out before early fall. We'll come in, I'll hit it with the tilther. Maybe I might have to till it again, and then this will go back and cover crop to be ready for the cows next winter. So it'll be a long season crop. So I plant them once and you'll get one crop out of them over here, but I'll come back with a huge cover crop that the cows can come in and eat on. It'll build big soil. The one thing I have to do is I have to put a waterway across the center of this to kind of help with my drainage next winter. A greenhouse, you don't have a caterpillar tunnel. When can you start planting outside? Okay, so you can build your rows now. You should be building your rows, you should be stale seed bedding. Now I'm going to use the Farmer's Almanac. So the Farmer's Almanac tells me that April 14th is my last frost for the season in Ohio. So I can go 2 or 3 days before that, get the seed in the ground before it sprouts, the frost won't hurt it. I can start here at about April 10th, April 12th with greens, stuff that can handle the cool weather, and then slowly creep into my more production crops. So I'm going to start. Okay, so it's coming, it's going in. I'll show you each of those crops as we go through. I do have stuff in the greenhouse, and we've talked about how I'm going to kind of rotate the stuff throughout the garden so that happens. If you want to get involved, so if you want to be a part of our U-Pick program, we've talked about this, I made a video on this already. Get in touch with us, Facebook, email, call, text, whatever you got to do. I'll put all that stuff in the description of this video. It's $300 for the season. I'm guaranteeing you 20 weeks of picking. You come as whenever you want. You can get whatever you want as long as it's for you and your household. There's cameras set up so you don't have to worry about anything else, anybody damaging stuff. We're going to take care of all that. There'll be some tools here, but you can bring your own tools, bring your own bags, take part of that. If you want to get involved, let us know, get in touch with us. We've got about 10, 12 families involved in this already, and we have a room for a little bit more that won't cut into our restaurant or other productions that we're going to try to do this year. So let us know, get in touch with us.
As always, thanks for watching. Tell your mama and them, subscribe and comment to continue with us on this journey. And don't forget to check out Noah Smith at noahsmithmusic.com.